Everybody, welcome back to Video Esoteric on our long-running series, the Unported Playlist, where I take a look at some of my favorite unported arcade games of all time. And today we have TH Strikes Back, which is technically part of Unported Janktoberfest. Yes, it's April, but we're doing an Oktoberfest theme. And while this game is a ton of fun, and it is one of my favorite unported arcade games of all time, for its weirdness, it's definitely still janky, and it definitely still fits the bill. This game's theming and otherwise graphics are just so strange. They're charming, they are fun and unique, and the game is competent, but it is just kind of janky too. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, down below, hit like and subscribe, that notification bell definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support our channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. And if you can't tell already, this game's main opponent is this race of basically Amazonian women. But the strangest thing is TH has an attack that seems to be a fat ray. Once it makes contact with your opponent, they engorge themselves on something and explode into a pile of gore. That is just what's happening in the game, and you have sentient iguanas and these other lizards flying around with jetpacks, and all of the women are dressed up in these latex outfits with these long heads or skulls. It's a weird game. It doesn't make any sense, but it is still a ton of fun. Kind of feels like a bootleg Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in spots with the kind of Jurassic theming, but then you also have these women that just explode and they just got stomped there into a pile of goo on the ground. I don't get it, but I love it. But it's definitely a janky game, just in the fact that it's so strange. And sometimes janky doesn't mean bad, it just means weird or otherwise not the norm. Now this is a sequel to Thunder Hoop, but it kind of stands on its own. It's made by Galco, at least that's how I believe it's pronounced, and they are a developer out of Barcelona, Spain, and they definitely loved this whole fat exploding motif. If you can't tell, each character, your opponents, are designed in a very specific and certain way, and whoever the artist was on this game definitely liked portraying women in that way, but they also really liked lizards and other very strange things, and in some spots it even has an H.R. Geiger sort of aliens artwork theme to it. But again, it's just a lot of fun. It is weird, it doesn't make any sense, but you can't help but smile when you're playing the game, and a lot of what you see just gets a little wild. Like right there, that literally just looks like aliens in the pods. I don't know if there's any sort of connection whatsoever, it just seems like they kind of borrowed a little bit too much inspiration, especially right here. But I will say the boss battles are quite good, and I love the verticality in the game. You're constantly going up and down on the screen, having something to hang on, or having an upper and lower layer to be able to fight. And it's weird that you just turn into a circle when you die, and then when you come back, you get a little bit of a bomb exploding on the screen, and you can place yourself as to where you want that bomb to explode. It's a fun little bonus mechanic for a death, but I love, again, even when you beat the boss, it just explodes into goo. It just gibs everywhere. It's so much fun to see. Now, I will say sometimes the game can be a little bit cheap, though. There are these little, for lack of a better term, minecart segments. It's just a platform, but your jumping needs to be absolutely perfect. If you touch anything, you're going to die, and you're going to be sent back to the beginning of this area. So you have to die to learn what's happening, like right there, but dying to learn what's happening is also going to cost you quarters, and some of these jumps you basically have to do blind. It feels like an artificial way to elongate the game, and also to make sure you're pumping more quarters into it at the same time, because this is something you need to see to understand, and you don't get a chance to see it until you're basically already dead. So it can feel slightly unfair, but this, a robotic statue vomiting blood as a waterfall, kind of like a fountain, that, my friends, is classic. That is a great image, and that's why I kind of do love this game. And like I said, mechanically, the combat is quite good. You move fast, you have a ton of different power-ups and shots you can use. It is a blast to play, and I love this little keep out thing here. And then you get to the next boss. You have this woman up there, kind of looks like she has a tail, but it is a codpiece, and this gigantic monster beast with a clearly pendulumous chest is attacking you and pulling you in to try to kill you, swatting you across the screen. I can't make this stuff up. There's a baby in a little cylinder in back with all of those entrails just hanging out of it, and this boss is just going to basically vomit off the side. Soundtrack, really weird, really good as well. Listen for 45 seconds and I will be right back. just has a fun sort of synthy guitar soundtrack to it. I'm not saying that the music's great, it is fine, and it's definitely a little bit rough in the sound hardware. But what is that? Does TH Strikes Back become a shmup at a certain point in time? 100% it does. For some reason, TH just basically catches on fire, jumps up into the air, and now becomes a shmup. It's just something the game does. It's not a very good shmup, and you have these really weird tendrils coming out that explode in pink goo. This game just never makes any sense. What the hell is that thing? And that is why it's on Imported Janktoberfest, because it is a competent game that just makes you wonder what in the hell the developers were actually thinking when they made this game. I don't understand. It is so weird, it's so unique, but that doesn't make it bad. It's actually quite fun, and like I said earlier, if you have a second player, it becomes even more fun. Unfortunately, the game will definitely drag in spots. This sort of plain sequence right here is just going to go on for a while. I'm just showing you the boss battle against this vampire bat. And all the bosses are fun. They're all pattern based, and once you learn that pattern, they can almost become free. The thing is, what happens after the boss battle, you just spent like 2 to 3 minutes playing a shmup level. This vampire bat is going to rot away into a skeleton and into dust, and then it's basically going to make you play some more shmup for a while. But we can skip ahead of that. That is the nice thing, and I do love the cutscenes here. Somebody or something is looking at our main character, and it is this classic mad scientist looking character, and you have this giant skull alien in the background. It's just always showing you something new and unique, but I can't get over the fact that these very dominatrix looking women just blow up into fat blobs once they're attacked. It has got to be a bad way to go. Maybe he shoots a microwave gun. I don't know if there's any lore involved in this whatsoever. All I know is watching people explode from fatness is definitely a very janky and very fun thing to experience in an arcade game. But the other fun thing is that you can actually just jump on your opponents to blow them up as well. So it's not just that ray that's going to make them expand until they explode. You can just jump on your opponents, and that's kind of interesting for a run and gun game. Generally, if you touch your opponent, you are going to die. If you touch that magnet there, that big weight on the side, you won't die. So in some ways, the game treats things a little bit too fairly, allowing you not to die in certain spots that you think you normally would, but then it gives you another one of these minecart levels, and you're definitely going to be dying a lot here, because this has 3 different blind jumps. I didn't know that you had to wait to jump there because it's been a while since I played the game. You actually need to be patient, but if you're playing this in arcades for the first time, that's just going to be a death, and it might mean that you need to put more quarters in. So the game can definitely be a little bit unfair in these sequences because you have to learn them and you have to fail at them to understand what to do, but failing at them to learn is also going to cost you money, and that's definitely not a situation you want to be when you're playing an arcade game, unfairly having to pump credits into the machine. But once you get by this segment, you get right back to the run and gun, and that is a ton of fun as well. And I just said, it's so much fun to just blow people up by making them fat. Every once in a while you get these weird enemies that you have to jump over to explode, and that's totally fun and fair as well. It just takes a little bit of a learning curve to be able to beat them, and some levels will tend to go on a little too long, but when people are exploding from fatness, it kind of makes it okay. It makes it entertaining enough to enjoy it. And now that we're at the last area of the game, the mad scientist is not happy you're here, and he runs off into the distance. It's got that classic mad scientist lab thing going on, and I love how he takes that elevator up and secures himself in this room where it seems like he is piloting this gigantic robotic frog, or maybe it's a lizard, I really don't know. It is hard to tell. But this game is just weird. It's fun, it's bright, it's colorful, it's got a decent soundtrack, and it's always amusing you, but it just doesn't make that much sense at the same time, and that's why I ended up on Imported Janktoberfest. It just is a very janky feeling game that you can't help but enjoy when you play it. Compared to something like Dino Rex, which just makes you miserable every single second, TH Strikes Back makes you happy pretty much every single second, and that's why it's on Unported Jankless, but it's also why it's one of my favorite unported arcade games of all time. You don't get many weird games like this. It's always a rarity. But leave me a comment down below. Have you ever heard of this game before? Have you played it? And if not, do you plan on playing it after this video? That guy just vomited up his lunch and he is dead. We will see you guys next time as the lab explodes. Bye bye.